Hello, everyone, and welcome to Live at OKclarity.com, the live experience that will bring you clarity on too much communication, 5 ways communication can sink your relationships. Tonight's live stream will be approximately 20 minutes long, and about the 15-20 minute mark. I'll review some question and answers that come in via Instagram, so just post in the chat at any time. A quick and important disclaimer: everything discussed tonight is for educational and entertainment purposes only. None of it is a substitute for professional mental health, wellness, medical, or financial advice. So let me introduce myself. My name is Dr. Benson Fox. I'm a certified life coach and dating coach. And I'm going to be here tonight. In general, I want to help Jewish men achieve higher levels of joy, balance, and growth. I'm here tonight to help you with the following problem. Everyone points to kind of too little communication as like the problem with marriages, the relationships, etc. It's considered to be like one of the pillars of marriage is communication. I'm here tonight to tell you that I think that is overblown. And I think many times communication can be a mask, a disguise for really other issues that are going on. Deeper things, etc. And we're gonna get into that. I think it is important. Communication is obviously something that does impact a marriage. It's something that does, many times people have too little of it, or sometimes a lot of times it's done in the wrong way. But oftentimes the problem is not too little communication or how you communicate. The problem can oftentimes be too much communication. You're communicating too often, too frequently, and I should say too negatively. So communication is something that the problem isn't just always too little, it can be too much. It's not just a question of quantity, it's also a question of how. We're going to get into all of this here tonight. I think many times people have too much communication of the types that overwhelmingly focuses on harmful types of communication. Many times this type of communication will sink your relationship. You're wallowing and dwelling in the negativity. It's too much weight for the ship of your relationship to continue sailing, and it's taking in too much water, right? And that water is too much communication of negativity. And then also just all this communication negativity, it distracts, it focuses you away from looking for opportunities for good, and it makes you start looking for opportunities in each other's lives for, when you go to like the couples therapist, and then you get to really hash it out. So like throughout the week, you're looking for ammo, you're looking for dirt on each other and it's a sad situation, but I think many times these dynamics, they play into these types of situations, and you're just looking for the thing that you make you seem like you're the innocent one, you're the righteous one, and the other one in the relationship they're the key problem. And if only they would stop or start or etc. doing whatever they're doing or not do whatever they're doing, then things would work out. So I just think this issue of communication many times it just puts us in the wrong space. It takes up too much space, positivity space, but also just makes us thinking in terms of the bad in each other. And we need to, in relationships to work, that's not going to be a useful frame. And so how prevalent would this problem be of too much communication? Different relationships have different issues, right? Different problems, right? I'm bringing to the attention an issue that I've started to see in my working with others, in a dating coach, a life coach, etc. That I've noticed that many times this is just the default advice. This, like, if you're looking at a textbook, what do you need to work on in your marriage or your friendship, or etc. It's communication. I think that it is overstated, and I don't think that so many people, that is where they need to be working. They need to be working on other aspects. But some people, that is what they need to be working on, is learn how to communicate more. I have found that many people, that's really not. I find maybe even most people, it's a question of too much communication, not too little. So why is this topic important? Because if you're rushing for communication, you're saying it makes you dwell on the negative, it kind of sinks the whole relationship negativity, it makes you think of what you could, building a case against the other person. But it also masks deeper issues, and that's what makes this such an important thing. So as long as you think this is the problem, you're not focusing on a deeper problem. And I'll give you one very common example of something where you think the problem is too little communication when it's really another issue. It's a question of trust. So, for example, let's say a husband goes out, and the wife wants the benefit of communicate exactly where the husband's going because otherwise she feels insecure. So, right, you could say that this is a question of trust, right? This is a question of communication. That if he should just communicate where he's going, and then she would be put at ease. But the truth is, it's not really a question of communication. It's really a question of trust. If she trusts that where he's going is not a place that would stoke her insecurities, then she wouldn't be feeling so insecure to then require the communication. And really, his communicating about, every single, wherever he goes, is actually a form of enabling an unhealthy dynamic where he needs to report, exactly what he's doing and when. And obviously it could be the reverse, where the wife is going out and the husband feels insecure and etc. But the point is that it's really masking an issue of trust rather than too much or too little communication. And I'll give you one more example of the same dynamic. Let's say the wife says something that's vague to the husband. The husband takes that as an insult. He says, she says to him, are you able to help in this area? And he takes that as questioning whether, he's capable in that area. Is that truly a question of, she should have communicated it better and etc.? Maybe she should have communicated it clearer. He wouldn't get all upset about it. He wouldn't be set off. But the truth is that you're not really supposed to be someone that is that you should be trusting that when your wife says that she's not really someone that's going to be attacking you. She's not trying to hurt you. She's trying to help you. And there are plenty of relationships where that trust would not be deserved. But in a regular relationship, in a regular situation, I think that this is something that giving you another example where it's not a question of too little communication or the how of communication, where that can help deal with the issue, but the true core issue is trust. If you trust that your spouse, when there's ambiguity in what they're saying, don't take it the bad way, take it the good way, because you trust in their love of you, right? Don't trust where they're going, that they don't have bad intentions. So the trust is really the thing that is missing, not so much the communication. Another aspect when it comes to communication that I actually think is very under talked about, ironically, is masculinity. Where am I going with this? Men are meant mostly to communicate with their actions, not as much with their words. It's the nature of the dynamic of men and women. Women are more talented and generally more skilled with their words, and men are more action-oriented, and that's how they communicate to their better half or in friendships, etc. The men prefer to do activities together. Women would prefer to look for an ambiance where they can then talk with each other. So that's a general gender difference. So many times when you're looking for, I want the husband to be communicating more with me, it's a question of too little communication, maybe with words, but it's really mostly a too little communication through action that's really been missing. So you're looking to, maybe you're even demanding from your husband that he uses his words more, when that's not really his strength. And really what you really should be doing, or maybe he already is doing, but you're not accepting in that way, is it needs to be using more his actions. So it could be that it's a question of the ability to receive that form of communication from the female end, or it could be it's a question of the inability of the guy, or confusion that he thinks he needs to be communicating more clearly with his words, when it's really he needs to be working on figuring out how to do so with his actions. So I'm just saying this question of communication it's automatically assumed to be a question of words many times. When I would say that many times, especially for a guy, that actions can be the way to communicate that you love them, right? If you create a thoughtful gift for them, what you're communicating to them is love. So if you don't say it as often as the wife would like, I love you, maybe he should be saying it or maybe he shouldn't be. But the point is that for the guy, his strength is going to lie more in doing it through in the realm of action. And that's something that's also should be considered when you're discussing this idea. Too much, too little communication is not just too much, too little with words. It's too much, too little also with action. And I think that's also another masking of that other issue, is how much is the guy, sometimes girl as well, but usually the guy, communicating what he needs to through his actions, not his words. So that's just another thing, but that can be masked, that there can be a lack of masculinity if the person's not engaging in that way and is relying too much and is almost being feminized in a sense by being forced to communicate in the same way, in the same skills that a woman generally does, playing to the same skill set, when that's not really where he will shine. All right, so let's jump into, so what's the solution here tonight? Let's talk about here tonight. Right, so let's jump right into it. Point number 1. Let's talk about 5 secrets that we're going to learn here tonight. Number 1, the problem is likely not just communication. The problem is being disguised something else. And we mentioned distrust. We gave a few examples. Lack of masculinity. We gave a few examples of that. But I think there's a few other ones that I'd like to address here tonight. Of what other things that lack of communication is being, that's what you're pointing your finger at. That's what you're blaming. But there's really other things going on. One thing would be a lack of forgiveness or flexibility. What do I mean by that? Let's say a spouse, doesn't get up to clean up, or something like that. So what would you blame that on? What would you blame the guy's being told to communicate. So he says, I don't want to get resentful about this, so I have to let her know. So every time, he's the only one clearing off the table, or she's the only one clearing off the table, she's going to say to him, or he's going to say to her, like, listen, we're learning about this communication thing, and I need to let you know that this is not okay, right? That's something that's really minor. And you know what? Like, in the context of a relationship, there are certain things you're going to have the lion's share of the responsibilities, and some things she will, and sometimes you will. So it's like, you shouldn't really be, like, kind of playing a scoreboard here. You should really be reserving your quote-unquote communication for only, like, major repeated offenses, not for criticism. Should be something that's rare. So this is what I mean by too much communication, is that I don't mean that, you're not saying too much communication, that you're saying, I love you, I love you, I love you. Right? If you want to say more positive words, go right ahead. Too much communication, in my view, is when it's too much negative. Too much negativity is being expressed. And then this is being facilitated, let's say, in a couple session, to learn for the guy or the girl to speak their mind more, and they're being enabled and encouraged to say more negative things about each other for things that are so minor. And really, the issue in their marriage is not saying more things. It's a lack of forgiveness. It's a lack of ability to look the other way. It's a lack of ability to choose your battles and have that cognitive flexibility to just let it go, and not feel the need to communicate it, because it's already forgiven and forgotten. It's already something so minor. And obviously we can't pretend that when we're really grievously injured that we forgave and forgotten. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something that's truly minor, not a repeated thing. We shouldn't feel such a need to communicate these things, and we should learn to let these things go. So when we're saying, too much, too little communication, I think that the communication issue is really, why do you feel the need to communicate that? So it's masking the underlying issue, which is a lack of flexibility, a lack of forgiveness, a lack of love, a lack of understanding. So we said distrust. It could be an issue that communication is masking, lack of masculinity, lack of forgiveness, flexibility, and sometimes it could just be that you're spending too much or too little time with each other, right? You need to communicate more what's going on in your life, etc. The problem is you're not spending any time with each other. Or the problem is you're spending too much time with each other. And that is driving this negativity. And the problem, you don't need more release valves of letting the negativity loose. You need to stop creating this, pressure cooker situation where you're both just in each other's faces all day, all the time. Or you never see each other. So, of course, when you're around each other, that's the only time you have to talk, and that's going to be a negative thing. Then that's not going to work out either. So I'm just showing you, again, alternatives for this, general end-all, be-all topic called, too much or too little communication. All right, so those are some things that it could be masking. Number 2, how do you communicate effectively, healthily? So again, sometimes it's just not about quantity, it's a question of the how. How do you get to communicating healthfully? So number 1, it's compliment sandwich, right? If you want to say something negative, you got to first show them love, you got to show them respect. Then you could throw in one area to tweak, don't make it sound so big, and then you come in at the other end, right? The bread on the other end is, again, then you end it off with love and respect. Love means you show that you care about the person, you show that you're connected to them. Respect means that you value them. You show a real thing, a positive, something that's truly authentic to you. And if you can't come up with something that you truly respect in another person, then it's not your business to say something bad about them. It's not your place to just lash out at someone because it bothered you. You need to put in the time and effort to show the person love and respect before and after, and then when you're saying your point, to say it in that context. Say it like, and this is something that I don't understand, that is someone that is so good in all these areas. This is just one area that I think that if you were able to address this, it would just kind of help me, because it bothers me. You put it a little bit on yourself, because it probably is a little on yourself, to be blunt. So you want the compliment sandwich. You also want to make sure that criticism is rare, especially towards women. About 80-20, 80% positivity, 20% negativity. If it's male, female, probably 95-5, something like that. Right? You got to pick your battles. It shouldn't be, you want to communicate with authenticity, with love, respect. You want that to be shining through, bursting through, that love and respect in your communication. You always don't avoid terminology that's absolutes. Always, never, things like that. Do not try to avoid speaking in those types of absolutes. And you also want to be making clear to them, your reason why you're communicating is more to help them rather than to help yourself. And this is something that's very critical, because many times when we want to criticize others, it's because it's something that bothers us. And you know what? If it just bothers you, sometimes it's better not to communicate it. You want to be something that you want to be able to communicate only things that really it serves. It doesn't just serve your best interests, it serves theirs. And those things can coincide, but many times they don't. That's something to keep in mind, that if you want to be more effective with your communication, make it in their best interest. Think about it. If you're being communicated for yourself, you want to really be told something, not just if it bothers them, but something that would serve you. I would say show forgiveness, provide a concrete solution to them, take responsibility for your part, the part that you are accountable for, your part you played in the negativity. And don't make it too much of a big deal or too intense. People come to me with when should I say this in dating, or when should I say this in the marriage? If you come and you sit them down and you make it into a whole big to-do, many times that you're making it into a big deal is what made it into a big deal. And if you would kind of brought it up in a calm, positive context, then naturally, then they would not see it as a big deal. So that would just be another way to, if you're looking to communicate effectively, some quick tips. So number 3, if it's too little communication, I would say increase positive communication, right? Especially husband to wife. Bombard them with love, positivity, gratitude. Notice everything good. Verbalize it, even if only to yourself. Notice negativity, then move on and ignore it unless it's really egregious, unless it's a real pattern. Negative communication, again, should be rare, highly selective, very carefully worded, and only in the correct, calm, and positive time and context. Number 4, There are many ways to communicate that don't involve words. We touched on this and we said for men. Men should communicate primarily with actions, not words. Too little communication, maybe with too few actions, and not too few words. Adding the words may hurt the relationship by making the man more feminine. You man should really be playing the more the masculine role, and he should be pushed to demonstrate his love and respect more than he. If he's doing no words, then he does need to say and say words. But if he's not doing enough words, maybe it's just not enough actions, and that's really the critical piece. Number 5, the way communication works for men and women is different. Women are very sensitive to any criticism, and that's something that cannot be overemphasized within the context of a relationship. But men are also very sensitive, just I would say parallel to a man's body, that they're very sensitive to anything that directly attacks their masculinity. No need to get any more explicit. But if you catch, so anything directly attacks his ability to feel empowered, independent, being a provider, a protector, those are areas of sensitivity for men. So those are areas that you should make sure to be safe for extra carefully. But the truth is, for both a man and a woman, you want to catch them at the right time and the right setting is such a critical piece, and the how of you do it is really important, and you could use a lot of the tips that we used here today. All right, we're gonna wrap up here today. If anyone has any questions during my wrap up, just drop it in the chat below. Let me know if you appreciated this presentation or if you have any feedback, questions at all. Please just put it down here in the chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Any questions, please just, anything at all. If you're here for part of the presentation, the whole thing, no worries. Just drop it in the chat. I hope tonight's conversation provides some clarity on our topic here tonight. Too much communication, 5 ways communication can sink your relationships. And I want you to walk away with the following. More communication is not always the answer, especially when it comes to negativity. Often the problems are deeper. It's an issue of trust, masculinity, spending more or less time together, how you communicate, not if you communicate. It's the nature of the communication, positivity versus negativity, words versus actions, different ways of communicating. And many times adding more communication can make the problem worse, not better. So when someone comes and says to you, even if it's someone that has a quote-unquote degree or whatever, you just need to learn how, to work on your communication. Just know that may not really be the real issue, and that actually may make the problem worse, especially if you're learning to communicate in higher frequency, more negativity. Work on trying to only increase your positive communications. Let out your negativity. If you don't ever communicate negativity, or you don't do it effectively, then yes, you can work on that. But I've found so much that this is not the real issue, and many times it's not the real thing that's going on. It's a question of trust, as we said earlier before. I hope this is clear. Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to spending time with you all again very soon. Again, if you wanted to reach out, if anything here connected to you, or if you have any follow-up at all, you can either post it here in the chat. What I would suggest is you go on OKclarity.com and feel free to reach out to reach out for a session together, and we could see how to take your life to the next level and get to your goals and get the breakthrough that I'm sure you need, that you want in your life. Thank you for being here tonight. All the best.